Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So today we are on to week 4 of our AE501 journey, so let's just jump right into the roadmap and see where we're headed this week. So this week we are going to start another sort of two-part, two-week section, mostly looking at vector calculus. So during week 4 we are going to look at vector differential calculus, aka taking derivatives on scalar and vector functions. And then next week in week 5 we'll look at vector integral calculus, where we kind of do the opposite and just take a bunch of integrals. It's a little bit more decomposed and compartmentalized though than the week 2-3 section. So as such, week 4 is pretty much compartmentalized and standalone. It is again just looking at basically taking derivatives in different ways. So let's look at this. So to start off, there's a series of optional videos. So all of these are optional. This is all prerequisite material that you should have seen in undergrad. This is things like, you know, simple things like how to take a inner slash dot product, how to do a scalar or a vector projection or a cross product. Again, this should be all old hat. Everyone should be familiar with this already, but if you like a refresher, feel free to check out this video. If not, feel free to skip it. Same thing, this is also kind of a refresher. I think everyone is comfortable with the idea of a scalar function, aka a function that has one input and one output, or having a vector function where you might have multiple inputs or multiple outputs of this function, and how to think about taking derivatives of scalar or vector functions. So again, this is something you probably should have seen in an undergraduate multivariable calculus class. So if you would like a quick refresher, here's a quick 25-minute video to kind of get you back up to speed. And then similarly, plotting in either MATLAB or Mathematica. You know, in the past we've done a lot of 2D plotting in this class, right, where you have one independent and one dependent variable, or you have an x and a y axis. Well, now what if you want 3 axes? You have 2 independent variables, so you have an x and a y as an input, and then you have some f of x, y, or some z value coming out. So you now might need to make 3-dimensional plots. So again, I'm assuming everyone saw how to do that in undergraduate. So if not, feel free to check out these videos on how to do this in MATLAB or in Mathematica. Now, that being said, let's talk about the things that might be new to everyone. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is parameterizing curves. So this is how we might be able to describe a curve or a line or a path in 3 dimensions. And we're going to see later, we're going to expand this into defining surfaces in 3 dimensions as well. So this is a quick discussion on how to parameterize a curve. Once we have a parameterization of a curve, we can start talking about computing things like a tangent vector to that curve at any given point, or figuring out you know, how long a given curve is, or the arc length, or the length of a curve. So this series of videos is about, you know, an hour-long discussion on how to parameterize and how to compute some interesting parameters based on that curve that you're describing. Then let's talk a little bit about maybe now jumping into taking derivatives. So I think everyone again remembers from undergraduate the idea of a gradient of a multidimensional function. So the idea here is you can basically calculate the gradient of a function, and that also yields its way to the discussion of a directional derivative. So this is the derivative or the rate of change of a function if you head in a particular direction, right? And that has something to do with the gradient calculation. It has something to do with a dot or inner product up here. So I think you're going to put all this together and we'll be able to get this idea of a directional derivative. And again, you may have already seen this in a undergraduate multivariable calculus class. What we're then going to talk about is, okay, how about if we want to extend the idea of a directional derivative to a vector function, right? So the idea, the idea of a gradient, right? So the idea of the gradient, most of the time when you hear gradient, that's of a function which has maybe many inputs but one output. Well, what if you want to expand that to a function which has many inputs and many outputs? So the extension of a single dimension gradient to a multi-dimensional case is what's known as the Jacobian, and this is going to come into play a lot in, especially for those of you who are controls focused people. When we start talking about linearization of systems, this Jacobian matrix is going to play a large part of this. And again, it'll also come back and play a part in our discussion during week 10 when we start talking about optimization and things like the Taylor series. So the Jacobian matrix is a very interesting / important concept. And again, it's nothing more than extending the idea of a gradient to multiple dimensions. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's now talk about how about a multi-dimensional idea of a derivative. So this is what's kind of referred to sometimes as the chain rule. So again, this is probably something that probably harkens all the way back to even high school mathematics. I think people started introducing the chain rule. I would like to take a look at a chain rule from a vector slash matrix perspective, and this is actually going to come back. This is actually getting a lot of interest nowadays, especially with AI and ML. There are things like the backpropagation algorithm for training neural networks that is largely based on the chain rule idea. So we're going to take a look at how to apply the chain rule using a matrix vector notation, and that's going to be a lot more tractable for some of these cases. Yeah, like things like training neural networks and backpropagation and things like that down the road. Okay, so the chain rule will get us our multi-dimensional kind of nested or composite derivative. Then what I'd like to look at is just some really simple vector derivative operations. So these are things like doing the Laplace operator, computing the divergence of a function or the curl of a vector function. And again, you can see this is a pretty short video because really these are pretty much some turn the crank operations. You basically are given a scalar or a vector function and you just do some operations to compute these different things like the Laplace, the divergence, or the curl of that function. Okay, and then what I'd like to jump into is, okay, most of the time we're talking about all of these things up here, these previous discussions, we're going to frame those in a Cartesian kind of system, a Cartesian coordinate system, right, where you have an x, y, and a z or something like that. But in a lot of situations in engineering and science, right, you might run into situations where it might be more easily describable to talk about a system in either polar, cylindrical, or spherical coordinates. So let's talk about and refresh our memory on what is the relationship between Cartesian, polar, cylindrical, and spherical coordinates, and how to go between each one of these coordinate systems. And what that's going to yield is that some of these operators that we talked about here, when we talked about them in a Cartesian coordinate frame, you actually have to make a small operation and small change to apply them in these different maybe cylindrical or spherical coordinate frames. Okay, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Week 4 is, like I said, pretty much just talking about vector derivative calculus. So let's jump over to the homework and see where this is going to apply. Alright, so here's homework 4. So problem 1 is actually really simple. I'm going to give you a couple of vectors, namely these 4, and I would like you to basically just use MATLAB or Mathematica to compute a couple of different quantities, like compute this, A dot B, compute this. And again, I'll let you watch the videos to kind of discuss what this notation means, but you're going to do this plus this. Then in part C, you're going to do this operation. Part D, you're going to do this operation. Or just explain why, you know, maybe some of these are gobbledygook and it doesn't make sense to actually compute them for whatever reason. If that's the case, go ahead and just tell me why you can't compute it. The only other thing I'd like to point out is just to get some practice for part A and for part B, do this by hand as well to double check your Mathematica or MATLAB calculations. And then once you're happy and comfortable doing these by hand and checking it with Mathematica, feel free to just use MATLAB or Mathematica for the subsequent parts. Okay, great. Let's move on to part 2. Okay, problem 2 is, let's say you've got a thin little metal plate, and any XY position that you move to on this plate, you can find out how hot it is at that location using this function right here. Okay, so the plate, you know, runs from this X to this Y coordinate system, so that defines the domain of the function. What I'd like you to first do is just go ahead and plot this thing using the plot 3D function in Mathematica. And remember, that I talk about in things like this. So if you don't know how to use the plot 3D function in Mathematica, just maybe check out this quick little video here to get you oriented. Okay, with that in place, let's go ahead and do that. Also, let's go ahead and use MATLAB. It has a function called surfc that will help you visualize these. And then once you have these, parts A and part B are going to give you some idea of what this function looks like over this entire domain up here. Next, for part C, what I'd like you to do is compute isotherms, or what this is sometimes referring to is lines of constant thermal temperature in this case, right? Because T is the temperature function. What I want you to look at is what XY values give you a constant 5, 10, and 15 degree field. So that's what's referred to as an isotherm. So what you should have here in part C is you're computing an analytical expression for x and y coordinates which satisfy this equation equals 5, 10, or 15. Okay? And then once you have those analytical expressions, you should be able to plot those using either Mathematica's plot or a Mathematica's plot or contour plot command. And you can then kind of talk about how does the isotherms you're visualizing here relate to the overall temperature function you are visualizing up here. Okay? All right, and then in part E, we're going to keep going, and let's do some more things. Since we've got this function hanging around, why don't we go and just compute its gradient here. And then visualize what does a gradient look like using the vector plot function in Mathematica. And then lastly, this one is, okay, let's assume now you've got a small little insect or bug that's sitting here on this plate at this location. And it starts walking in this direction with a velocity of this speed, okay? And what I'd like to ask is, what's the rate of change that the insect experiences right when it starts off its journey? And you should be getting something, an answer in the units of like temperatures, degrees, temperature per second or something like that. So that's what it's going to experience if it heads in this direction. The next part of the question is, which direction should it head if it wants to cool off as fast as possible? Okay, so again, this is going to come back to this idea of a gradient and a directional derivative. So again, watch this video first, and that should give you all the ammunition you need for this problem 2. Okay, great. Let's move on then. Problem 3, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's just I'm going to give you a parameterization of a curve. Just go ahead and sketch it, right? Do it either by hand or by a computer tool. And then part B, I'm going to give you another parametric representation. Do the same thing. Just sketch it or use a computer tool. And then part C, let's say now let's go backwards. Instead of me telling you a parameterization and then you plotting it, how about I give you a description of a curve, right? So it's a circle with this center and passing through this point, right? I want you to find a parametric representation which describes this curve and then just plot it, right? Okay, so that's problem 3. Problem 4 is, again, I'll give you a parameterization of a curve right here. And now what I like to do is let's go ahead and compute the tangent vector to this curve, or more importantly, the unit tangent vector to the curve. And then you should be able to plot the curve and the unit tangent vector at a couple of locations along the curve. And in this case, I would like you to use MATLAB just to get some experience. So again, here are some hints of some functions in MATLAB you may want to look at to kind of do this plot. And then in part C, let's go ahead and compute the length of this curve. So this here is some curve. How long is this, right? If you were to go and drive or fly along this curve, how far would you travel? Okay. Now, what's interesting about this, and I tried to provide a little verbiage about this, is what I'd like is at the end of the day your answer in the form of a decimal number. The reason I'm asking for that is I think what you're going to see is that the analytical expression is not trivial, right? You can definitely do this, and in fact, we are going to talk about how to do that in this lecture right here, where we're talking about our arc length, or the length of a curve. That's exactly what I want to get some practice with right here. So you're going to have to perform some integrations, and it's not going to be pretty. In fact, I would suggest do not try to do this by hand. I would use Mathematica's integrate function. You're welcome to try by hand, but I think it's going to take you longer than you would like. So let me leave it at that. And then at the end of the day, Mathematica is it's not going to have a problem with this, but I do want you to provide your answer in the form of a decimal number. So don't leave in these radical things or any of these other expressions. And again, the reason why is I want to make this easy for the TA to be able to check your answer, because I'll tell you what, I think I'm rambling at this point. Everyone gets what I'm going for. Just give me a number at the end of the day. Okay, great. So that's problem 4. Problem 5, again, this is a pretty straightforward turn the crank. I'm going to give you a vector field here. I'm going to give you a point inside that vector field there. Can you compute a couple of things about this vector field, like the divergence of the vector field, and then what is the value of the divergence at this point P? And the same thing, what's the curl of the vector field and what's its value at this given point right here. So, yeah, like I said, this one I think is pretty straightforward. There's no Simulink, there's no simulations. It's pretty straightforward, so I hope this is pretty manageable. But if not, I've got office hours. Feel free to come by. We can chat, send me an email, and we'll go from there. So, with that being said, this is probably a good spot to leave it. I think I will catch everyone at office hours. All right, talk to you later. Bye.